tonight's tutorial is a little different. Starting in, I think it was the beginning of December, we started selling a rose kit for Valentine's Day. So to do a Valentine's rose. Because what better, you know, a real rose or a fake rose that'll last forever. Real rose or a fake rose, anyways. So we sold like 180 of these kits. Yay! So a lot of them are going to be first time people doing the rose, which is just absolutely fantastic. So what I'm going to do is a little bit different than I normally do. I'm going to use this Facebook Live as to kill two birds with one stone kind of thing. So I'm going to use this. I'll edit all this jibber jabber at the beginning for my YouTube, but I'm going to use this tutorial as a teaching tutorial and as a Facebook Live workshop tutorial for the kits that we sold. So there is a lot of people making their roses with us tonight. So I'm going to be going super slow. So those of you that have already made the rose, you'll probably be done before I get even finished circumference 5 or circumference 2. But I want to make sure everybody understands how the whole concept is going to work and why we're doing what. And this is a good learning tool for any of you out there that would like to maybe do a rose workshop or any of the flower workshops that we're going to be doing this week. Because, for instance, the rose workshop, you could do kits like I sold on my website. And so you can do them locally. So that's what I used to do. I would put together some kits or, you know, hold a workshop and then bring all the stuff with me to the hall. And everybody would cut their mesh. And I would just teach people how to actually construct the flower without actually having to make a wreath. Well, tonight I'm going to have to make a wreath because we're doing it on a Facebook Live. But if you want to do it in your area or you want to sell kits and do a Facebook Live on your page, feel free to do it. All you have to do is exactly what I did for the kit. So I sent everybody a roll of 21-inch mesh, 8 pieces of green. So I cut the green for everybody. I gave a bag of zip ties. I even gave a clothespin, I gave an elastic for the center, and the board, and that's pretty much all you have to give everybody, and scissors. But you can also ask people, most people have scissors, you can ask people to bring their own scissors. That's not like, you know, a bad thing to ask them to bring their own scissors. Or if you're doing a Facebook Live, you can ask them to pre-cut their mesh like I did. So because cutting the mesh is boring, right? Nobody wants to sit there and watch somebody cut mesh for 15 minutes. So you can ask them to pre-cut their mesh and then join you at a certain time, and you guys all make it together. So it's a great way, and you can teach them exactly like I'm going to teach you guys tonight, or in any of the wreath, flower wreaths that we're going to do this week. So it's really a lot of fun, and again, this is how I did all my workshops. It's just basically being organized. You have to be an organized person. You have to be a people person, and you really want to make it fun. Okay, so but it's really, really not hard to do. So what I asked everybody to do when they got their kits is to pre-cut their 21-inch roll of mesh into 9-inch pieces. Now, I said 9 inches because technically the roll is a 10-yard roll. Now, you may have, what I had come across was, I was going to do this gold rose tonight. And I cut all the mesh yesterday for this gold one. And I'm thinking to myself, this is not really springy or Valentine's Day. It was just kind of a roll I just grabbed off my shelf. And then after I cut it, it's like, oh, it's kind of more for fall. So I ended up cutting myself. Now this mesh I really, really like. I've seen a rose done in this two-tone mesh, this pink and gold, and I loved it. So that's why I bought a bunch of it. Unfortunately, not a lot of you actually purchased this kit, but you can purchase this mesh. I'll tell you all the places and everything to make a rose. So any kind of 21-inch mesh will do. I say that because it doesn't matter if it's really thin, because this mesh is kind of thin compared to this more metallic mesh that I cut up. But because we're going to be folding it over, it's going to give you enough coverage that you won't see the board. Okay? Now, unfortunately, not all mesh are equal. Okay? I find, and this is a personal opinion, that any mesh from pretty much Taiwan is very thin, frays a lot, and doesn't give you the greatest coverage. Now, saying that, most, like Hobby Lobby, Michael's, Joann's, most of their mesh, unfortunately, is from Taiwan. They must get it really cheap, and they do a huge markup. So I would recommend buying your mesh from really well-known places like Trendy Tree or Craft Outlet, or, you know, places like that, Deco Exchange or whatever, that sells good quality mesh. Now, even they, pretty much when they order mesh, they can't really even find out if it's from Taiwan or anything. So it really is a hit and miss type of thing. But at least if I forewarn you and you see it's from Taiwan, you may just say, and grab one from China or Korea. So I'm just going to leave that right there. There is a lot of people that can tell you the differences between meshes and stuff, and just ask and people will answer the questions. We have a sister page called Unique Wreath Makers and Workshops. It's another Facebook page that we run, and it is just chock full of all kinds of information on our boards, all kinds of pictures. People are doing the most fabulous things with the boards, and really, they're really blowing my mind of what they're coming up with. And which is great because, you know, I'm only one person and I only think of so many ideas, right? So, really, La, you're right in the background. Anyways, so back to this. I'm going to be using this striped mesh. Okay, so I think we're good that we could probably start with the actual tutorial, you think? We have 200 people? Mm-hmm. Yes, I will be putting the camera right down. Like I said, I was just going to chit-chat, let people jump on. So, because we, like I said, we are doing an actual kit, so I don't want anybody to really fall behind with doing this. So I'm going to go through what we're going to be using. Like I said, we're going to be using a 21-inch roll of mesh. Now, some of you, when you cut your mesh, some of you maybe got 39 or 38 or actual 40 pieces. If it's 10 yards, you should have got 40 pieces. Unfortunately, as we're finding out, 10 yards isn't really in true a 10 yard. So when I cut this mesh, I actually got 39 pieces, and I was very precise. I wanted to make sure. So I got 39 pieces out of this. When I cut this mesh, I got 38 pieces. A rose that I made the other day, a red one, I actually got the true 40 pieces. So what we're going to do today is I am actually going to do the rose with 38 pieces. That way, if anybody didn't get quite 40 pieces, it's okay. No need to panic. We're going to fix that. And then if you did get 40 pieces, great, because wherever we skipped the set of holes, you can actually put in a piece of mesh in those set of holes. There's going to be so much mesh in this rose because it is so large and full that if we skip 2 spots, you're really not going to notice it, okay? I promise. So, what we need is our Unique in the Creek flower board. So you can probably go down now. So we won't be taking a lot of questions through the tutorial. If you are stuck and you really need help, definitely throw us a lifeline, say a comment. Dave is monitoring the comments and he will ask me. So if you're stuck, speak up. If you fall behind, try and catch up. If you don't catch up, no worries. I can't stop the whole teaching for one person, but this is going to be on a replay. So if you get stuck and you're halfway through, don't go panic or anything. Just stop, or if your hand's cramped or whatever, just stop and you can finish it off later, okay? Just don't overthink this, and we're going to have fun with this. So back to what we're going to need. We're going to need, I'm using the large flower UITC board, okay? Zip ties. I have 9-inch zip ties, and I have 6.5-inch zip ties. I'm probably going to be using both because it's in my jar. Again, our 21-inch mesh cut into 9 inches. I also have cut 10-inch mesh. So the 10-inch, now this 10-inch mesh that I cut, I picked this one on purpose. This is one of those meshes where there's no metallic in it, and it's very see-through. Now, I get a lot of questions all the time that, well, I used 10-inch mesh and you can see my board. 99% of that time that happens is because the mesh is either from Taiwan or it's really, really thin. It's not the greatest quality of mesh. So for those people, I tell you to double up. Now, you don't have to double up on every set of holes, but if you double up every other set, you know, if you are running out of mesh or whatever, it will give you more of the color saturation and more of the fullness that you want for your rows. So I did cut this because I'm going to show you how to use the 21-inch mesh and the 10-inch mesh. Both, the whole making of the wreath is exactly the same. So how you put the petals in, how you make the petals, everything is exactly the same. The only difference is if you're using 10-inch mesh and it's really thin, you are going to put 2 pieces on top of each other, okay? And this is how we're going to be using our petal if you're using 10-inch mesh. Okay, so you're going to double the, so when people say, did you double the petals, this is what they're talking about, is using 2 pieces of mesh. Now, if you're using good quality mesh like this one, and it's got nice metallic in it, I'm just going to fold this one over, you will get the coverage that you need, and you won't need to double your mesh. So unfortunately, because there is all kinds of different meshes, you have to try and figure that one out yourself. Is it a good mesh? Do you think it's good quality that it'll cover the whole board? So you'll have to make that executive decision yourself. Good thing is that if you start your rows and you're thinking, okay, this mesh is really thin, I'm going to see the board, it's really easy to start over. Just snip off the zip ties that you put in, and that's it. Restart again. Don't fret, don't overthink it, anything like that. You'll just have to double the pieces, okay? That is the only difference about the 10-inch. Okay. Oh, actually, there is another difference. On these outside holes, there is 8 of them, and that is on circumference 1. So on our boards, I don't know if you can see it, they are numbered. So when you are teaching, you can say, okay, now we are going to be working on circumference 1 on the outside holes, and then circumference 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then there's these 2 holes. They kind of don't match up with anything, and they're kind of beveled in. These are our hanging holes, and this is where you would put a piece of string, a zip tie, or anything to use to hang it. I usually use twine or cord or something like that, but I've been trying to train myself to use just a zip tie, and the reasoning for that is because it is starting to become spring, and I know I'm going to put a lot of these flowers outside on my fence and on my garden gate or whatever, and I'd rather have a zip tie to hang. That way the whole thing is plastic, because believe it or not, the mesh is a polypropylene plastic, which is what the board is too. So they're both weatherproof. The only thing is your mesh will fade, so you do have to spray it with a UV spray. Okay, and you can buy a Krylon spray as long as it says UV protectant, clear, non-yellowing. It's perfect. I wouldn't get a matte one, because if you do get a matte spray with UV, it will dull your mesh. Okay, so make sure you get glossy. Anyways, but then the whole thing is plastic, and you don't have to worry about it getting wet. The only thing you have to worry about is pretty much the sun. Now, if you go and add fabric ribbons and everything else, then, you know, you're getting into materials that are not so weather friendly. But they do have, you know, 2.5-inch deco mesh that is outdoor. You can use it outdoors and stuff like that. So you can get a little bit creative if you're planning on making some that actually are going to be staying outside in the inclement weather. Okay, so I talk a lot. So once we get going, I'll stop talking. Okay, so we got our board. The front of it, you'll see your circles. You'll see the circumferences. On the back is the back, so the back will stay nice and neat. Okay, it's got our logo and our website and everything. And all you'll see on the back is the back of the zip tie. So you won't have to cover anything up. And again, it's all plastic. Now, I use zip ties. Zip ties over time will break down, but if you're using a good quality zip tie, now the zip ties I buy, and I'm sure that where Amazon buys and everything, I buy them right from an actual zip tie manufacturer, and I was guaranteed they would last over 10 years. I said even in the sun, they said even in the sun. So if you're using dollar store zip ties, you get what you pay for, okay? Use good quality zip ties, and you're not going to have to worry about it. You know, your zip ties will last much longer than the mesh will last. Okay, so we got the front and the back. So on the back, you can see that you do not have any circles. So the front part is basically for your eyes only, as being the wreath maker, and you will see these circles, and you know, it's for teaching purposes. I like to tell wreath creators or whatever, you can tape a business card to the back of your wreath. You can buy yourself little stickers. You can get them made on Vistaprint or something that'll fit right in the center here with your logo, your Etsy store, your Facebook page, whatever you want the customer to find, to know. Because I say that because if a customer, say, buys a rose from you or a sunflower at a craft show, brings it home, all her friends must have one, she'll be like, oh, I don't remember, I bought it from some lady at a craft show. And there the sale ends. But if you put something on the back, like a sticker, I like stickers because it's easier for them to, or it's harder for them to pick it off, so they won't even bother. A business card, they may peel off. But if they have a sticker or something of your business on the back of the frame, all they have to do is flip it over and say, oh yeah, here's the lady's info. You know, write it down and check her out on Facebook. So it's really, really good if you are selling wreaths to put that on there. And it's just free publicity. It's free sales. Because if you make a stunning rose, you better bet a couple of that person's friends are going to want one as well. So they are going to know where to contact you. So think about that if you are going to be selling your wreaths, okay? All right, so we got wire cutters to cut the zip ties. I have my mesh, I have my zip ties, I have some scissors, I got my clothespin, and I got my elastic, and we're ready to go. Oh, and I do have this little tiny sunflower guy, or dragonfly guy that I bought at Hobby Lobby, and he's going to go on my wreath somewhere at the end. I have my glue gun plugged in. I always have my glue gun hot and ready to go because sometimes when you're doing your wreath, the petal doesn't want to behave and do what it's supposed to do. So I just hit it with some hot glue and I win. Okay, so let's start this. Are we all ready to go? Now, normally, when I'm doing my rows, I'll preload all my zip ties, okay? And I'm not going to do that tonight because we are doing this from scratch. So I'm going to put my zip ties as we go. And another thing, normally I start from the bud and work my way to the outer edge. Tonight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the outer edge so you guys can see what I'm doing, because I feel the outer part is the more tricky of the whole rows. So I want you guys to see exactly what I'm doing. So this might be good practice if you're planning on doing workshops as well, to start from the outer. So we're going to use circumference 1 first, and then I'm going to start on the bud, and then I'm going to finish the rest of the rows. Okay, so I'm going to go from section 1 to section 4. Okay, so we're going to get started. The first thing we're going to do is going to grab a zip tie. Whew, it's hot. Did you close that door, hon? I'm really hot. Can you open it?
Can you just go just quickly, because some people have the old board. They're asking a lot of questions about the old board.
Okay. The old board, if you have an older board, the problem with the older board, and now it's not a problem, the only thing is you are going to have to zip tie the bottom of each petal. Okay, so when I do the outside of this wreath right now, I'm going to be zip tying the bottom of the petal. If you have an older board and the holes are flipped, and this is exactly why when I went to plastic, I flipped them this way, because you use half the zip ties. Now, if you have the older board, you're going to have to zip tie every petal. Okay, so we're going to do that on the outer. You're going to have to do that for your whole rows. That is the only difference. Okay. Also, there is a tutorial on YouTube of the older board. There's actually a couple of them. So if you do get lost and you can't figure it out, there is that tutorial to refer to. But basically, everything's going to be the same, except for you have to zip tie the bottom of your petals. Okay? Hi, everybody. All right, we're going to get started. The first thing we're going to do is put a zip tie in our hanging holes. Now, quickly, I'm just going to go over the zip tie because it's amazing how many people really don't know how to use a zip tie. With the zip tie, the head, we are using an 18-pound zip tie, which it makes it really, really thin, and the head is quite tiny. This is all you need. Don't go and get those big gigantic zip ties, because they don't work very well for what we're going to be using, and they're much more expensive, so we don't need to do that. There's a flat part of the head, and this is the tail. The tail is going to go through the flat part of the head, and you're going to pull it, and you will hear that zipping sound. When you go to pull it like this, you won't be able to open it. That's how you work the zip tie. Now, should you try and put it in wrong, it's really hard to put it in wrong. So if you're like me and you do a couple roses, after you do a couple roses, you pretty much don't even have to look down. You get really fast at them, and they are quite easy. So sometimes you forget and you don't even look down, and you just go to put your zip tie in. If you're struggling trying to get it in, look down, because more than likely you have your zip tie backwards. So just switch it around to make sure that you're putting the tail into the flat part of the zip tie. Okay? And you'll hear that. If you don't hear the zipping sound, 9 times out of 10, you've got it backwards. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is take a zip tie, and we're going to put it in our hanging hole. So I'm going to go through the back. So I'm taking the tail of it, going through the back of that hanging hole. It's got divoted or chamfered in, going down that hole beside it. And of course, I did it backwards already. Just switch it around. Okay, and then you're gonna just zip it. Now you're not gonna zip it tight, because this is gonna be for your hanging. You can use string if you'd like, or twine. I've done that plenty times. I just trying to make myself come into habit of using a zip tie, so I have that plastic, so everything is plastic. All right, and then we're gonna snip the tail of this off. All right, so now we don't have to dig through the mesh to figure out how to put, or where to put our hanging holes in, because it's done. Okay, like I said, we are going to be starting on this very outside circumference, which is circumference 1. Okay, you're going to take a piece of your mesh. Okay, we are starting now. Okay, you're going to take a piece of your 21-inch by 9-inch mesh. What you're going to do is you're going to take the top of it and you're going to fold it down and just meet it up with the bottom of it. Okay, we're going to square it up as best as we can. And now this is why I love to use 21-inch mesh for roses, because it's going to give you a double petal automatically. What's the matter?
Oh, nothing. It's just camera. I gotta go a little bit so people can see better.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of sitting back too, so. Okay. So square it up as much as you can. So just like that. Okay? Kind of more of a rectangle, but that's okay. Now, this mesh is not the greatest quality, I guess. It's fraying. Don't worry about the frays, okay? When we do the petals, you're really not going to see the sides. So don't fret about that. Okay, so now we're going to turn it into a diamond. Okay, so top, bottom, side, side. You're going to take that corner up at the top, and you're going to bring it to meet the bottom. Try and flatten out your 2 pieces to make it a uniform 1 piece. It works a little bit nicer. Bring that down. Okay, now what I do is I swing it to the side, and I'm going to scrunch down at the bottom. And now I gave everybody a clothespin. You're going to, even if you're doing this on your cutting mat, you can pretty much see how many inches. Put the corner. Now you don't have to do this. You can guess. You're not even going to be able to tell, but I just want to teach you guys properly. If you put the corner, so I got it on the 11-inch right now, and I'm going to scrunch about 2 inches. So it's the 11th, so I'm going to scrunch about on the 13th, and I'm just going to scrunch it just like that. So it kind of looks like an umbrella. Okay? This is your petal for the whole rose, except for the green leaves. Now, this, for the outside, you are going to have to put a zip tie around the bottom. So take a zip tie. Make sure your flat part is facing the ceiling, okay? If you always make sure, and you can feel that, you don't even have to look down. If you feel that your zip tie flat part is facing the ceiling, you'll always put your zip tie on right. And you're going to zip it tight, but not too tight, because we're going to need to slip a zip tie on the back of this, okay? So I'm going to do another one, because we are going to do 8 like this. Now, unfortunately, if you have the older board, your whole rose is going to have this zip tie, okay? But this is exactly why I changed the holes when I did, because it was silly to such a quick little change for me of changing the hole. Well, it wasn't a quick little change because I had to change the drawings on the patent and all that stuff, but for you guys it was a much better thing, because then you're using even less supplies and even less time. Okay, so again, we are folding. Now they want you to zoom in a little closer.
I know, I think that's as close as I can get. I'm sorry.
Let me move this board. So all I'm doing is folding that 21-inch piece in half, meeting the bottom, squaring it up as best I can. Look, there's frays everywhere. That's okay. We're going to turn it into a diamond. Bring the top of that diamond down to meet the other corner. I kind of flip it around and guess about 2 inches. Now you can use a clothespin here if you're going to fuddle away with your zip tie, or you can just zip tie it around. So I just kind of press down and kind of hold it. And then with my zip tie, again, I'm not going to do it too tight, but you don't want to do it too loose, that your petal tail is going to come out of it right now. So we are doing 8 of these. I'm going to show you on a 10-inch right now. So you guys keep doing your 21-inch, but should you want to do a 10-inch, if you're using good quality mesh, you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to turn it into a diamond, and you're going to have the curl of that mesh going up towards the ceiling, because it always makes a natural curl. You're going to take the top of it, corner, bring it down, swing it, and if you have the new board, this is all you need to do, and you're going to slide it into the zip tie. If you have the old board, you would put the zip tie around the bottom. Now this isn't great quality mesh, and it's very, very hard to see, so I definitely would put 2 pieces on this. Now you 21-inch people, you keep folding your 8 petals. You need 8 of them with the zip tie at the bottom, okay? Now if you have thin mesh from like Michael's or Hobby Lobby, but it's really pretty, because I have used like the ombre stuff, absolutely gorgeous. It's crappy, but it's doable for the rose. Try and make it as one uniform piece as much as you possibly can. Okay, there's 2 pieces. I'm going to bring that down again, swing it around, scrunch it in the middle, and now you can see, you can definitely see more color to this mesh now. So you can see why I can't technically tell you guys 1 piece or 2. You're going to have to make that decision for yourself, even if it's, you know, trial and error. Once you do a couple of these, you definitely get to know the different mesh is. You will get your own technique. You may find shortcuts, all kinds of stuff. I have customers since we've started in May, and they have taught me stuff. So people are just loving these and playing with them and doing different things. And if you want to share with us how you did something, that is your prerogative. You are definitely not obliged, or you know, you have no obligation to share your techniques if you do not want. Okay, I just want to put that out there. There we go. So we got 3. You can see this is really fraying, but that's okay. We're not going to see any of these cuts, edges there. Yes, I'm sorry guys, I have to teach slow tonight. If I'm teaching too slow for you, you may want to wait to the replay that you can go fast forward through this. There is a lot of people that are first timers, and I am using this for a teaching tutorial for my YouTube channel. So, now once we do the outer edge, the rest of it goes a lot faster because we're omitting this whole zip tying the bottom step. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I usually do this while I'm watching a movie, and I will pre-make the petals. I have a whole bin full of clothespins, so I will sit, after I've cut my mesh, I will bring all my mesh over to my recliner. I will put all my zip ties, so we call it preload the board, and then I will sit. I even sometimes make Dave do it with a piece of wood, like just a board, on my lap, and I pre-make all my petals. So I will make them all, and I'll put some clothespins on them, and sit and make a rose. And once you get good at this, and if you've done it once or, well, After you've done it 2 or 3 times, you can make one in probably a half an hour. I think Isabel Rivera from Sparkles in Atlanta, I think she's got it down to 20 minutes. Patsy Hazelwood, she does a ton of roses, and she does different colors and stuff like that. I think she's got it down within a half an hour. So the saying practice makes perfect is definitely effective here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, one more. So you guys are probably ahead of me already. Like I said, once we get going, it's going to go pretty fast. Now, I do want to say with the 10-inch mesh, and I'm probably going to screw you guys up right here. If you are using 10-inch mesh, you are going to want to cut 8 pieces of that 10-inch mesh at 10 inches long. Okay, and you will see, and I'm going to explain it to you why in a few minutes here. For the outside of the rose. And I'll explain why. It's probably easier to explain why I'm telling you to do 10 inches for 8 pieces as we do this. Okay, so getting this out of the way, I do have a little container here that I throw my tails in. Okay, so now you're going to get your board. Okay, with the circles facing upwards, the diameter circles that tell you which row it is. You are going to take one of your zip ties and you're going to put it through the back side of your board. So the tail is going through. Okay, there's 8 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on circumference 1. You are going to then take your umbrella shaped petal, and what I usually do is I take like almost a scissor fold, so I put these 2 right above my zip tie there, and I take, that was just for 10-inch mesh for the 8 ones around the thing, and I'm going to show you why right now. I got lost here. You're going to take your scissors, your finger scissors, put it just above your zip tie here, and I fold, kind of press down, and because we're going to have the tail of this petal facing inwards, so it's going to go in like this, but we want to put this zip tie on the back of it, and that's how it's going to get attached to the board. And this is how you're going to do the whole rows with the older boards. Okay, so you're going to take your zip tie and you're going to go through the back of that zip tie. Alrighty, and then you're just going to lock it. Now you're not going to zip it right up, just listen for your zip. Okay, and once you heard that zip, you're going to pull this other one nice and tight, as tight as you possibly can, and you're going to snip the tail off. And you're going to leave it hanging like this, okay? But that tail is facing towards the center. Now, the reason I tell you, if you're using 10-inch mesh, to cut 8 10 by 10 pieces is because these corners of the mesh are going to be tucked in to each neighbor's zip tie. Okay, now if you cut your 10-inch mesh 9 inches, you're not going to have enough mesh to reach over. Now I told everybody was saying, well, should we cut for the 21-inch? Do we need to cut 8 pieces at 10 inches? And you do not, because when you do fold it over, you got a 10.5-inch piece when you fold it over. I don't know if that makes sense, but it.
Some people are getting confused with you putting it through the zip tie. They're thinking it's the old board you're working on.
No, this is the new board. It's plastic. If you have the old board, you have a wooden board and the holes are going diagonal. They're going up and down. You're going to take your petal that you made. I'm putting it between my fingers and my thumb. I'm just kind of pressing it out. I'm taking this zip tie and putting it in the back of the petal and zipping it up. Now I'm not zipping it up all the way again, just enough so I could hear it. The tail, now when I do unfold it or let it go, it will come out this way. The tail is going to the front. We are going to pull this one tight again and snip off the tail. Okay, so what I was talking about is now when we finish all 8 of these, what we're going to do is we're going to be tucking in the tails or the corners of each into each other. Now if yours doesn't reach, it's not a big deal. This is where the glue gun comes in. But I'm not going to confuse you right now. We're going to put these 8 in, okay? So rather, if you have the old board, new board, whatever, this circumference one, number 1, is always going to be done like this. The only thing that is different is if you are using 21-inch mesh, or 10-inch mesh, sorry, though you're going to cut 8 of the pieces of 10-inch mesh, 10 by 10. Again, there is the other tutorials to refer to if you are getting a little bit confused. If you're using 10-inch mesh and you're confused what I'm talking about, there is the other tutorials that you can refer to.
I was thinking you can turn the board sideways a bit so you can see a little bit better.
What sideways? What? Put the zip tie in. Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm just putting the zip tie in through the bottom. I'm using this hole. Sorry, I was hoping the Meebo was going to go over top. But we need 2 Meebos if we were going to do that. So you've got your umbrella formation. You put your zip tie in. So I just kind of put it in and it's kind of going like an L. You're going to take the back of your petal. You're slipping this through the back. Can you see it better? You're going to zip it just till you hear it. Now you're going to take this one, pull it nice and tight because it's done its job. It's just attaching it to the board. So we have 4 so far just hanging off our board. I'm going to do 8 of them like this. Now you got to make sure you're outside. These are the outside petals, that the tails, just remember the tails face in. Like I said, normally this step is, I do it at the end, but it's really hard to see when I'm teaching if I wait and do it at the end, because if I'm filling in all these, by the end, it's all a whole bunch of mesh and you can't see what I'm doing. So that's why I'm starting with the outside right now. Once you start doing more of these, you'll probably end up just doing your rows with the, man, this mesh really frays. You'll end up doing once you've done a few of them in practice, you'll end up doing the outside row probably last as well. But for teaching purposes, I'm doing it first so you guys can actually see what I'm doing. So we got 2 more. I cut all this 10-inch mesh. I guess I really didn't have to. Yeah, there's replay. If you're not too sure, and you're getting a little frustrated, just stop and actually just watch me do it, okay? Because you can go back and you can stop and start and rewind and all that jazz. you know, once it's not live anymore. All right, we're on our last one on the outside. So again, I'm just kind of scissoring it, and I just kind of push this out just so I can slip that zip tie on the back. Zip it up till you hear a zip. There we go. And then this one can be tightened and cut off. All right, we're ready to start this. So what we're going to do is you just pick an area. It doesn't matter where you're going to start. And what you're going to do is you're going to take the corner, or whatever petal you're starting with, take the corner of it and put it in its neighbor. So what you're doing, hopefully you can see this, taking the corner of this and I'm putting it through this zip tie. And this is why we didn't do the zip ties tight to begin with. And you're going to take now this neighbor and take him and put its corner in underneath. So you have two of the corners of its neighbor in the zip tie there. Now, like I said, if it doesn't reach, if you don't have enough mesh and you seem to be struggling, all you have to do is put a dab of glue right there and put your mesh down on it. Now, don't stick it with your, hold it with your finger or anything. And if you do struggle trying to put the corners in, do yourself a favor and just glue it. You will not see that it's been glued. And once we start building the rows, everything builds on itself and pushes in on itself, and it actually, that's what forms the rows. Now this outside corner, section is quite important because it gives the look of the edge of the rows. Okay, so you would put glue there, and you're good to go. But I have enough mesh here that I'm going to put one corner going in, the other corner going in. I kind of hold it against the board, and I'm going to zip it up. Before I do it really tight, I want to make sure the corners are in there, which they are. If they slip out, again, don't worry about it. You can just hit it with some hot glue. Okay, and that one's done. Now, I'm going to continue going around. So I'm going to take this corner, and I'm going to go, you can see I'm going to go over top of this one. So there's one already, that one's already in. I'm going over top of it and sticking the corner of it in its neighbor. And then I'm taking this one and going in. Okay, you're going to kind of hold that down with your finger. You can also use your clothespin if that helps. So if you put your corners in, clothespin it so to the board. You can flip it around. Oh, some of these are tight. And then zip it up. So the clothespin just acts like an extra hand for you. Alright, and let's go to the next one. Now this is our hanging holes. We don't want that. So again, I'm going to go over top into this one's a little bit shorter. I think I'm going to glue this one. It's a little bit short, which is okay, because you won't see any of that. Where's my little finger? I had one of those little rubber fingers. Okay, this one seems to go on the zip tie a little better. So it was a little bit longer. And you can come back and glue afterwards as well. Because you'll notice some of the petals are not going to under your board from chasing it across. Oh, that's a good idea. Thanks, Deanna. Deanna said putting a little shelf liner under your board so your board doesn't slip. Okay, so you're putting your corners in. My mesh on the edges are a little bit flat. This one was a little bit short. It's really gonna have to get glued here. Huh?
They're getting panicky about your glue gun sitting there.
Oh.
They're concerned you're gonna burn yourself.
Oh, I probably will burn myself the week I've been having. This is this rose is going to turn out really pretty, but it's not the greatest mesh. So you're just going to keep doing this all the way around. If you feel like this is too much, just use your glue gun. If you're struggling. Sometimes I don't feel like fighting with the mesh and I just glue it. Like I said, you can't, I use Gorilla Glue too, so I really trust Gorilla Glue. This one might be a little bit short too. Let's see. Yeah, this one's a little bit too short too. I'm not going to stretch and pull it, but I'm just going to glue it to the board. So as you can see, now I've did that formation, okay, around. And you can see it's starting to do that rose kind of petal thing. I am going to open these up at the end. We'll fluff them open so they don't look flat. Okay, and then this one, they're just too short. All right, so now I'm going to, did we get this one in here? And that's why I said for the 10-inch, if you do it 9 by 10 inches, you're definitely not going to have the mesh that you need for the distance. If you forget and you cut it all 9 inches, don't go and reopen another roll. Just glue them. Like, this is not coming off. So, and you're not going to see any of this because these ones that we're going to be putting in, they're going to cover all this hot mess. Okay, I'm just going to put that there. Now I'm going to go along and I'm just going to trim these tails. Ah, sticking to me. Oh, I gotta do this one up still. Ah, move my thing. Okay, so just flip it over to make sure you got all your zip ties are done, are tightened. And then you can snip off the tails. So now I don't put these heads of the zip ties into this hole yet because I will be using this hole again at the very end of the wreath to put my green leaves in, okay? So if I go put the head in, I'm just going to have to move it out to put the green leaves in. All right. That is our first part of the rose, and I find that is the most difficult part. So if you can master that one, you're good to go. Okay, so now we're going to start the bud. Now, we're using 21-inch mesh, and because we only have 38 pieces, When I first started making the flower boards, I didn't have row 5 in here at all, okay? And I would do all my roses with starting right here. And that's how we're going to do it tonight. Now, should you have enough mesh, so if you cut 2 rolls of, say, 10-inch mesh or 21-inch mesh, you can add these 4 petals in there for the bud. When you're using 21-inch mesh, you really don't have to. I tend to, like I said, 1 roll of 21-inch mesh will make a full rose. So, saying that, it's up to your discretion if you want to add these 4 petals. It'll just make a little bit of a tighter center, but just using these, you'll see when we're done, these make a really nice center as well. So right now, for this, we're just going to be using section 4. We're not going to use section 5 because we only have 38 pieces. So if you want to do these pieces, you're going to do them exactly like we're going to be doing these ones. So you're going to do these ones, and then you're going to be doing these ones, and we're going to put an elastic there, okay? If you're using 21-inch mesh like we are right now, we are just going to be using circumference number 4 right now. You're going to take a zip tie, you're going to go down 1 hole and up the other. And you're going to zip tie it, okay? This is preloading your board. And we're going to do, there's 8 on circumference 4. You're going to put the 8 zip ties, preload them onto your board. So we have one here that's already, that I'm going to have to glue, I can tell. It's not behaving. Sometimes you have to make your mesh, show you who's boss. Show that mesh who's boss. So if you want to get really creative, like some people have done, they've done different colors for each circumference. So you can play around with the different colors and stuff. Or you could do, you know, dark pink, light pink, dark pink, light pink, or, you know, all kinds of stuff. I'm pretty basic, plain. I don't do really fancy. But then usually I'm just teaching anyways, so the more fancier your rose, the more chance you're going to get a lot more buzz on it. Like a lot of people were making the patriotic roses, red, white, and blue with the stars and everything. Stunning. But again, just using different colors mesh and your imagination. Okay, so we have preloaded section or circumference number 4. And we are going to start on the bud of our rose. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of push this out of the way. Maybe I'll put it to the side so you guys can see what I'm doing. We are going to be doing the petal the exact same way as we did the outside one. The only thing this time is we don't have to put a zip tie around the bottom unless you're using the older board. Okay? If you are, yeah, thank you, Lisa. If you are behind, just watch the video. Do as much as you can. Watch what I'm doing. And then you can go and replay it, rewind it, and it'll make a little bit more sense to you once you've watched it once. And there's a few, I actually have a few roses on my YouTube. So if you do have an old board or whatever, you can find the old tutorial on there. Okay, again, folded it over. We're going to take the top, bring it over, swing it to the side, and scrunch it up to make our umbrella. Now this time, we are not going to put a zip tie. We're going to take our board and we're going to put our petal straight into the zip tie. Now this time, the rest of the rows, except for these 8 things, the rest of the tails are always going to face towards the outside. Okay, meaning I'm going to slip this tail into my zip tie here, and the tail is going towards the outside. Okay, and you're just going to zip it nice and tight. Okay, that's it. We're going to do the next one. That's why I said once you get the pretty much the outside takes the most time, I find. But after you've done a few, and if you have good mesh, having good mesh really, really helps and makes a difference, especially for time-wise. And, you know, I'm constantly, like this mesh, it's got a lot of frays on it. It's not the best quality mesh, but I love, love the outcome of this color mesh when it's done. It is so pretty. Same with the unicorn one. The unicorn mesh, perfect Easter rose, because it's like purple, lavender. Okay, so I'll show you guys, hopefully I can do it from the side. We're doing that all the same. We're loading them in the center. So there's 8 of them. So I'm folding it over. Okay, flatten it. Bring it over. Scrunch it. We try and make it as uniform as possible, like one solid piece. Doesn't always happen, but don't worry about it, because this, like I said, it's all going to press in on each other and you're not going to be able to see all of this. So you're going to take your tail and you're just going to literally, how can I do it? There. Slide it through the zip tie and zip it tight and cut your thing. Now you can put all your 8 in and then cut the zip ties afterwards. That's usually what I do, but then I find myself always finding that odd zip tie that I missed and everything, which is not a big deal because you won't see it once the rose is complete anyways. So if you're using 10-inch mesh, if you're using good quality, you're just taking one piece of your 9-inch by 10-inch mesh and you're sliding it in. I'll try another one again. It's hard to do it upside down. Slide it in and zip it up. So I'm leaving about 2 inches between the zip tie and the tail. So the tail's going in about 2 inches. Okay, so I have 4 more left to do here. Yes, Eva, I love it too. It makes such a pretty, you would never think that it would make such a pretty rose. But I seen one last summer, somebody made one with this color and I just absolutely fell in love with it. Okay, so I got 3 more. I need a drink here. I'm so glad that all of you guys are helping. Thank you so much. We do have a lot of great people in our Unique in the Creek community. Always helping, doing free tutorials. They're also teaching, coming up with some amazing stuff, like blow my mind stuff, which is awesome. It's just great. I always say on my lives, I am not the greatest wreath maker, but I just have good ideas. And how I come up with flower wreaths is actually just looking at a picture of a flower and playing around with mesh until I figure out how to do that petal. So I'm just zipping these all in. We are eventually, when I'm finished, I have 2 more, we're going to kind of round this all out and form the bud of the center of the rose. And guys, your rose always looks like a big, huge mess, until you're completely done. So don't panic if you think, oh my gosh, what a mess. The only time I would question when I'm sorry, my nose is running, I don't know why. When I'm doing my wreath is the mesh too thin? That's pretty much the only thing I ask myself when I am making my rose. Do I need 2 pieces? With 21-inch mesh, you can't go wrong because you're doubling the pieces no matter what. So if your mesh is thin to begin with, you're still going to get your color saturation no matter what. But if you have really good quality 21-inch mesh, your size of your rose and your color saturation is really supreme. Like, it's really good. So, all right, we got this big, huge mesh. Look at this big plop here. You're going to get your elastic. So, or you can use a piece of string. I was using, when I first started, I was using just baker's twine from the dollar store. And you don't even really have to do this step. I just find to make the bud nice and tight, or at least form the way I want it to. If I tied it together, it stayed like that. Christina, if you are using 21-inch mesh and you only have like 38 to 40 pieces, then yes, I would take that out and start on row 4. You're not going to need those inside 4 if you don't have enough mesh. If you have enough mesh, then leave it. So if you were going to do these inside ones, so you would do these inside 4, okay? And then you're going to fold them like I'm going to show you right now. You're going to just randomly take any piece, okay? I'm going to start with this piece. I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to kind of fold it in, okay? So I'm taking the corner of it and kind of bringing it in, taking the other corner and wrapping it around itself. Then I'm going to take its next door neighbor and I'm going to do the same. It's going to hug it, okay? I'm taking the corner of it, taking it around, taking the other corner and bringing it around. Now you pretty much can't let it go. This is where your clothespin comes in handy if you're, if you need your hands. Then you're going to take this one, this corner, and bring it, and you're going to hug again, hug it around. So you're going to bring it around and around. You're going to take this one. Where am I here? God. You take this one and just keep going around and bringing it around. So it's just hugging it around each one. You're going to take your next one and bring it around. Once you turn the mesh, it automatically kind of goes around it anyways. But you'll see why I use a string. I'm going to take this one and take this one. I'm going to take this off and put it here. And then I'm going to take this one and take this one. So what I'm doing is I'm just wrapping these 8 pieces around each other. So if you're doing the inside 4, you would put your 4 in, wrap them around each other, and then you're going to do the next section of row 4 and do the same. So you're going to have a tighter bud, okay? Okay. There we go. Now we're starting to look a little bit more like a rose. So I'm gonna okay, do you guys see that? I have strings, but we'll cut the strings off later. This isn't the best mesh, but not from Taiwan, but now near the end, like at the end, if I don't like the center, I can twist in the center and use some hot glue and do it and make it do what I want it to do. I'm going to take another clothespin just to help me out here. So hold on. Okay. Everybody good? Okay, we're all wrapped around. Now, you are going to take your elastic band or rubber band or whatever you guys call it. I'm hot. Stretch it over and you're just going to put it around your bud. Now, if you're using a string, you would take your string. I don't even have a string here. You need about 2-foot piece of string. Give yourself a good amount of it. Take it and wrap it around and then just tie it. Now, don't knot it, but tie it enough that it's going to be tight enough to hold your bud in. Now that you have your elastic band around your bud, do you guys see that? I'm going to go around and make sure all the corners are in the rubber band. So I'm just going to turn it around and make sure take this off. And just make sure that this is not, so this, like this one right here, this corner, it's kind of sticking out. I want it in the band. Now you're not going to see the elastic band once we start putting more of the rows together. Now my center is not really behaving like I want, but that's okay because at the end I will show them who's boss and hit it with some hot glue. Get these strings. So that's not bad considering we had so much phrase when we were putting this on, and there's just a few little strings. So it's not too bad. And that is our center, our bud. Now, like I said, once we start adding more of this on, it's all going to form and push and build itself on it's going to build on itself. Okay, now I'm not going to fuss too much more with the bud. I just wanted to make sure, again, this corner keeps popping out. I just want to make sure that the corners are in there. And I use the elastic band or the string, just more of a tool to help me because I only have 2 hands. And it just helps keep that center in. Okay, now the rest of it is easy. If you got this far, your rose is good to go. Except for this one, just let's put some glue there. This one just keeps wanting to pop out. All right, so now what we're going to do, now you can go and trim up these if you want. It's a step that's not really needed because these tails, you're not really going to see them. But for teaching purposes and to keep it nice and clean so you guys can see what I'm doing, I am going to trim them. So it's a little more neater. Okay. So once you get good at making your wreaths, you'll see why you're going to start with your bud, and as we start forming, and you're going to work your way out. Like I said, I started on the outside of the rows so you guys could see how I was putting these outside row in. Because you'll see once this rose starts forming, it's going to be pretty big. All right, so we're going to start loading up some more zip ties. Now we are on row 3. So there's 8 of them. Again, you're going to go through the one hole, so each hole, and go up through the corresponding hole. this upside down again. Oh, it looks real. I did actually just looked up to see the color. It's very nice on the camera. So again, we're going to go through and load up our board. Section number 3, putting our zip ties in. Now, like I said, once you get good and you've done a couple of these, you could preload your whole board like I did on this one. It makes life a little bit easier and gives you a little more time. Various places. This mesh actually came from, I think the Tool Shop, Tulle. Now I had ordered mesh. I knew I wanted to do rose kits in like November. So I had to order mesh from everywhere, wherever I could, because everything was sold out. So red especially was sold out, hence Christmas. So wherever I could find mesh is where I ordered. But right now, you can get your boards and your mesh and everything else. You can get them from our website. Well, we don't sell mesh. If you want to get your mesh and your boards all in one transaction, you can go to Trendy Tree. Trendy Tree has amazing quality mesh. And right now they are sold out of the flower boards. We just shipped them a whole bunch more, so they should be getting them in the next couple days. So if you're wanting to make some roses and you want your mesh and your board all at once, you might want to wait till Trendy Tree gets their boards. They have a whole bunch coming to them. If you want your boards fast, you can get them at Amazon. We have them on Amazon.com, and we sell them. Amazon sells them in packs of 5, and you get them Amazon fast, like the next day. Okay, so I did the 8, and normally I would just keep going around and do the 16. Now when I cut this mesh, it wasn't a true 10 yards, and I'm finding that out hard. Yes, Craft Outlet is good too. The Wreath Shop is good. Paper Mart's hit and miss. I've got stuff from the Tool Shop. There's all kinds of stuff. Deco Exchange has good stuff. So, but right now, Trendy Tree, currently at the moment, is the only one that you can get your mesh and your boards all in one transaction, which is really handy. So, like back to what I was saying, I only got 38 pieces, so we're going to need there's 40 total holes that we need. So we're going to have to cut 2 of the sections, or 2 holes out. So you won't be able to tell when I do that, but I think I'm going to do maybe this one and this one. So it's going to keep even if I keep these, if I don't do these 2. I hope that makes sense. So I'm not going to put zip tie in this one and this one, because my roll wasn't a true 10-yard roll. Now, the only fault of that is not anybody's that you purchased it from. It would be like China. They don't give you, and that's the only problem when you're doing a specific project that you actually, calculate what you need. That's when you find out, where's that other ½ yard? It's truly not, I guess people don't really measure a whole 10 yards, I guess, unless you're doing a project like this, where you need that whole 10 yards. Because that whole 10 yards gives you a perfect 40 pieces. And 40 pieces of 21-inch mesh is perfect for the rose. Okay, where did I skip? Okay, I'm going to miss over here. So I'm just preloading the rest of these. Because we are almost done the rose. You watch how fast this goes, because the two hardest part are done. So if you've conquered your center and you've conquered the outside, you've done the really hard stuff. The rest is really easy. And I'm going to skip this one. I know, I love this color mesh. You would never think to make a rose with it, but when you start blending, when the colors start blending together, you don't really tell it's striped, which is really cool. It makes a nice effect. Okay. Okay, so boards again, uniqueinthecreek.com, trendytree.com, and amazon.com right now. We are in talks with a few other places, but those are the three main ones. Okay, so if you want your mesh, I would suggest ordering your boards from Trendy Tree. If you want them really fast, I suggest ordering your boards from Amazon, which our Amazon sales have like skyrocketed. My gosh, everybody wants them too sweet. And if you're okay with getting them within a week or a week and a half, then you order them from us. Okay, here we go. Back to folding mesh again. So you're folding it in half, doing your triangle, bringing it down. Well, that's just a hot mess one. Try and square it up. That was my problem just now. I didn't square it up very well to make it look uniform, one piece. I found using this new stuff, it's called, I don't know if you guys have used it yet, but the fabric mesh makes a beautiful rose. It rounds so perfectly. It's gorgeous. Okay, got your umbrella. Now we're just gonna whip these in. You're taking your tail, you're gonna be sticking it through, going towards the outside, zip it up. Why is my nose running? Now, I'm gonna cut the tails as I go because I'll lose them. And as you put each petal in, you start forming it around your bud. Okay? Next. Is there any questions, hon? The rest is pretty. What's that? Oh, you have to buy because that's the way Amazon wanted it. It's not our thing. They did not want to be, and I don't blame them. They didn't want to be shipping out just one frame. So they do that with a lot of like stuff like that. If you notice that even a wire frame, I don't think you can even buy just one single wire frame. You know, they're so busy, they don't want to be, I guess, one to death. So they get us, I'm just having a hard time there. They get us to package them in 5s, which is fine because the plastic factory does it for us, so no sweat off our back, but yes, you do have to buy them in 5s. But I hate to tell you guys, you do this once, and I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people that will agree with me, it's quite addicting. Especially once you start I've done a couple of them, and you can whip these things out really fast. Yeah, 5, you go through 5 pretty fast. And because these, our flower frames aren't just used for just flowers. So I've done all kinds of different tutorials. You can have a look on our tutorial, our YouTube channel, which is go to YouTube and just type in Unique in the Creek. I think I'm up to about 70 tutorials now. They are all free. So yes, I do these all free. All I ask is that possibly you guys can share this video. So if you guys wouldn't mind like clicking the share button, even right now, I would be like, oh, so happy. Because that is just pretty much our word of mouth is with you guys and sharing. The 4 holes in the middle are, you can make a tighter bud, okay? That's the only way I can explain it. For the rose, because this board is not used for just a rose, the 4 holes in the center were more designed towards the sunflower and like the zinnia and stuff like that, that you can make the center. So you'd use the center 4 holes and use brown. So you would do all your sunflower yellow, and you could actually do your center using those 4 holes right on the board. And you'll see that actually tomorrow when I do the zinnia, I'm going to actually do my center right on the board. So you don't need any foam or anything else. And that's basically why I put the 4 holes there. Now you can, like I said, you can use it for the rose and you just make a tighter bud. But because this is not a rose frame, it is used for other stuff. And you'll see some of the flowers, like the daffodil, I use only half the holes. The hole patterns are just that, patterned. You use the holes in different patterns with different petals to make different flowers. But we wanted to make them very versatile so that you didn't have to, you know, just make a rose with this. There's all kinds of stuff you can make with this. And those holes are there should you need them. Now when I use 10-inch mesh, I do use those 4 holes. I really don't have to with the 21-inch because the 21-inch makes such a full rose. And 21-inch mesh, the rose is the only thing I use for 21-inch mesh. Everything else I use 10-inch mesh. And I'm not saying that doing a rose with 10-inch mesh is not, it makes a beautiful rose as well, as long as you use the correct mesh or used 2 pieces so you can get that color. Look at how this is forming now. Isn't that gorgeous? Now you guys can see why. Like when I am doing a rose in the car, because I've showed you guys a million times, like me, you know, doing wreathing in the car. When I'm doing a rose, it's usually not with 21-inch mesh in the car, just because I cut my mesh in the car and everything with my electric scissors, and to cut 21-inch mesh in the car is really hard. So I usually use my 10-inch mesh. And like I said, the 10-inch mesh to make a rose, it makes a gorgeous rose. Just use the correct stuff. Pardon?
How do you tuck the beginning of your bud?
Oh, Pam, you'll have to watch the replay, hon. I can't go through all through it, but you do the 8 and you're gonna, I just take one and I kind of turn it to make the inside, and then it just piles on itself, and then I put an elastic on it. But if you watch the replay, you'll see. And as you can see, this is starting to build on itself, and it's pushing everything together. So that elastic is gone. You can't even see it anymore, but it is holding everything in there. Sorry. I hope I'm not getting sick. My nose is running here. All right. So I have one more on this section. And as you can see, it's just sticking it in and zipping it up. There's really no thinking once you're done the bud and the outside. And I think like once you've done a couple of these, you will start with the bud and work your way out. Because my arm keeps hitting the outside edge, and I'm pulling out my pieces and kind of squishing it, but I wanted to make sure you guys could see what I was doing. So as you can see, yeah, you can see tons of frays, but as you can see, as this rose is building, you don't see the outer edges of those frays anyways. So that's why I say don't bother with a wood burner. Just cut your mesh. All right, that one's done. Now we're going to do the rest. And it's doing exactly the same. So again, if you guys... Hi, Emily. Perfect. Thanks, Emily. Emily Garcia is a fabulous sign painter, and we are working together on a super secret project. And hopefully I can tell you guys more about it, but I'm really excited because you guys will love this. Okay, so you just keep putting it in, wrapping it around, putting it in, wrapping it around. So I did manage to get myself a ton of yellow mesh, and I'm hoping to, and I got a whole bunch, I scored a whole bunch of brown centers for sunflowers. Now Trendy Tree will be selling the centers for the sunflowers as well, but I knew I wanted to do a bunch of sunflower kits, so I grabbed a whole bunch early in the fall. So I will be hopefully putting together some sunflower kits for March. Those will go fast. So just to reiterate, I'm not really going to go back on questions right now. If you have questions, you'll probably have to look at the replay, because I am using this as a tutorial as well. So if you're just joining us and you have questions about the beginning of where we started, you will have to go check the replay. Oh, I guess I should probably... I'll try and do this upside down here. Okay, so what I'm doing, sometimes my tails are a little longer than the other ones, so I just kind of trim them. Okay, I'll try and do this upside down. Next next tutorial I do tomorrow night, I'm going to have our Mevo like right on top of me. So you guys can see what I'm doing. Wow, 340 people. And thanks for all for joining. So we're doing rose on the Unique and Creek flower board, the large one. Now we do have a smaller one. It is still wood. And if you do order the wood ones, they do take a bit longer to make because Dave actually makes those ones still. The plastic ones are made in our factory, so we pump those out really fast. But anyways, the small board is pretty much the same concept as this large one, except for the outer part, and it makes a smaller rose. Now, my personal opinion, I like the smaller board, but if you're gonna make a rose for your front door, make one that's gonna actually make a statement. So the smaller boards are great for, you know, like a retirement home or a trailer, or, you know, somewhere with a small door. But if you're making one for your front door, make a rose, make a big one, make a statement. It's only like $1 more, and it just makes a nice, it actually makes the perfect size flower for a front door, the big board. The small board it's good for, you know, like I said, retirement homes, or, you know, if you live in a trailer or whatever, a smaller place. But if I'm going to take the time to make this, I'm making a nice big one. Use the same amount of mesh pretty much anyway, so I am sticking these in. The tails again are still going towards the outside. The only tails that are different are these outer ones that are going inwards. And as you can see, it just keeps filling up upon itself. Now I keep pressing down on these. Hopefully they'll puff up like they're supposed to do. That is why I said once you start figuring out how to do this, you probably will do your center and go out that way, because I keep squishing these down because I keep pressing my hands on them. When I'm doing them, I do it from the center out. But like I said, when I was trying to teach you guys, I wanted to make sure you guys could see. And now you can see why I started with the outside, because you would have a really hard time seeing what I was doing if I didn't do the outside first. So tomorrow we are doing the zinnia. The zinnia is a little more trickier. Now it's not going to be as hard as it was with the older board. So that's a good thing, because you don't have to do, all the flowers are exactly the same, the tutorials, as on the YouTube, except you do not have to zip tie the bottom of the petals anymore.
I don't know if we can two doors here.
What, this?
Yeah.
Oh yes. Yeah, they all fit through between two doors. So yeah, back to all the flowers are done the same. The tutorials are the same, except for that step of not zip tying the petals. So I omitted that by just simply changing the whole structure. And I needed to do that once we decided that we were going to go into plastic, because once the mold was made it can't be changed. So I thought, if I'm going to do it, I need to do it now. And I'm glad I did, because it totally makes it so much faster, and you use way less zip ties. So why wouldn't I? We're almost done, guys. Look how pretty it is. See? That big old hot mess blob is actually starting to turn out to something pretty. No, I don't use 21-inch mesh on any of the other flowers except for the rose. And you can see why. Look how big this is getting. Like, it is like super fabulous. Now, I can see the board here, but when you watch me, I'm going to go around and I'm going to hit some hot glue, because there's places where no matter how much I tuck in the stupid corners, they pop out anyways. So I show them who's boss with the hot glue. And then once we're done, even though we only use 38 pieces, so if you wanted to use all the holes, you will need 44 pieces, okay? If you wanted to do that very inside circumference 5, you will need 44 pieces. But as you can see, you really, when you're using a 21-inch mesh, you really don't need that extra mesh. One roll of 21-inch makes a beautiful rose. And your customer will not know the difference. Because don't forget, somebody that's buying a wreath off you, has probably never seen a wreath like this before, and will more than likely try and stare at it to try and figure out how you did it, and they'll never figure it out. So these are really, they're different. We were not around, we didn't come out into the US until May last year. So we totally missed the whole spring. So if you guys are wanting to do flowers, I can pretty much guarantee people in your area will be flabbergasted, because they will have not seen these before. So it is a good time to have jumped on the Unique and the Creek train. Especially flower festivals are starting shortly. So get your practice on now before all this starts, because there's rose festivals, there's a festival for every single flower possible. And also April is Cancer month, and the daffodil is the flower for Cancer. And I don't know about in the States, but everywhere, every grocery store in April is selling the daffodil pins, and it will be really popular once people see, oh my gosh, there's a daffodil wreath. So it's different. We're almost done. I'm going to put some green leaves on. Now that's optional. You don't have to. I think it just breaks up the color a little nice. Some people only put a few on. That's totally up to you. I'm going to add my little dragonfly guy wherever he went. There's all kinds of butterflies at the dollar store, and you can buy all kinds of stuff. Really cute little additions. Ladybug. Especially the ladybug and the sunflower. That is really, like, très cute. That's my French. My French Canadian. Très cute. Look how squished I so totally flattened my edges out. So how is everybody doing? Are we doing good? Yeah, Eva, you know what? I'm just doing the very basic, and you've done quite a few of them already, so you know. I just wanted to start out with the very basic for the newbies. And once they've done a couple, they will figure out their own technique their own way, whatever way works for them. So, but this is the basic minimal technique. The people that started with us in May are like the professionals now. Okay, why is I only have one piece left? I thought I cut 38. Oh no, that's why, because some fell on the floor. Whew. I almost had a heart attack there. So we're using 38 pieces. Hopefully you guys got 40 and you can do all your holes. When I cut my mesh, unfortunately, it wasn't a full 10 yards. And of course you don't know that until you get to the very end. And it's like, dang, that wasn't 10 yards. That's okay. You work with it. Nobody will know the difference. If you don't tell them, they won't know. Alright, almost done, almost done. Yay! How are we looking here? Let's tip it up. Are we looking pretty spiffy here? Yeah, the board's blank. It's the technique. It's the technique and it's the pattern you use. And you'll find once we go through all these flowers through the week, each petal, I'm going to be teaching, each petal is different. So each flower petal, I will be teaching a different petal. And there is many more flowers out there than I'm teaching you this week. I'm just teaching you guys the most popular ones. Except for one of the popular ones is the mum. And there is a tutorial on the mum. The mum is like one of my favorites. It's more of a fall flower, but if you used spring mesh, it can be whatever flower you want. Actually, I have 39 pieces, I think, here. Now, because the board is plastic, the zip ties are plastic, and the mesh is plastic, this flower, once you spray it with your Krylon UV spray, because it will fade, the color will fade. I really need to show you guys my flower wall from last summer. That it's still up on my back of my pool. The flowers are all still up, but I have to show you because you can really see the difference between good quality mesh and crappy mesh just from the color. Even though I sprayed them all, some of the good quality mesh, and I sprayed it with Krylon, you can still see, like, the color is still like the day I made it. The bad quality mesh, like the crappy mesh, even though I sprayed it, is like I used hot pink, it looks white. So, again, you get what you pay for. But keep in mind when I do show them, and I will, those flowers were in complete sun almost every day. And I think I did the flower wall in June. And they're all still up there. Oh yeah, I have one extra. So I had 39 pieces. So I do have one more spot I can add one. So if you guys have 38, you're done. If you have 40, you're lucky because we got gypped off. We got gypped off with a little bit of mesh here. So look at the back. That's the back of your wreath. There's no covering up. There is nothing sharp. Everything is completely flat. Here, I'll put it in here. So, sorry. You may pay a couple dollars more for our boards, but in the long run, you're actually paying less because you do not have to buy material or anything to cover up the back. You don't have all that time of twisting pipe cleaners and or chenille stems or whatever you guys call them. And you do it really fast. Like I said, I whip these out, well, I can whip these out in 20 minutes. Okay, so our rose is done. Now what I'm going to do, I am going to go around. Now I've totally flattened my poor outsides by resting my arms on it. So the only, looking pretty good. I am going to put some hot glue in the center of my bud. Okay, I'm just going to twist it a little bit tight, so see if I can show this somehow. So I'm going to take the corner, there's the corner of the very, very inside one. And I'm just kind of twisting it. I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue in here. Now this is where you need to be really careful that you don't burn yourself. Get your clothespin handy, because once I put hot glue in there, I'm going to kind of put a clothespin in there to hold it for me. So I put some hot glue in there. I just kind of pumped it in there, and I'm just going to put that clothespin on there to hold that. And then this one doesn't seem to be behaving either. I'm just going to put a little tiny bit of hot glue, and kind of, the hot glue is right there. I just kind of press it against. So you kind of guide these ones that are not behaving, like I said, and you show them who's boss with a little hot glue.
When you're done, can you show it from the side view?
Yeah. Like the side view, like.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to put my green leaves and everything on still too. But I just want to make sure I showed everybody the center. I just lost my clothespin here. Okay, there, clothespin it back. Now I'm going to go around and tuck all my corners in and see if there's one not behaving. So you just want to tuck all the corners in. Now, if it keeps popping out, like if you have a corner, like say this one, it keeps popping out, just put a little bit of hot glue on the petal behind it, stick it back in where it's supposed to, and the hot glue will grab it and keep it there. There's a little piece here. I don't think it's going to behave. But on the most part, as you're going around, they stay in. Okay. Now I'm going to have to try and fix out my squished sides here. Okay, so what I'm going to do, because I kind of flattened these out on accident as I was making it. This one's not behaving. I'm going to put some glue there. So you're not using a lot of glue. You're just using a little dab, because glue and mesh love each other. And this one is, there we go. And they stick really well together. Alright, now I'm going to try and fix up this Now this mesh I'm using has no metallic in it, but it's still pretty, oh yeah, it does have a little bit of metallic in it. Now I'm going to try and fix, this one was glued, I think I glued it to the wrong spot. Okay. There is the side. Somebody wanted to see the side view. I'm just going to go around and try and again, clothespins. I'm just going to kind of push these because I kind of flattened them with my arm when I was putting everything in. So if you just grab the two pieces and just kind of balloon them out. And as I was going around and my arm hitting it, some of the corners were coming out of the zip tie. Don't worry, like I said, plop a thing of glue. Look how pretty! Okay, ready? I'm going to take this off. I may have a few little strings. I always cut my strings when they're on the door anyways. That way I don't have to clean up. But there's not too many. I have to kind of puff up these sides here, like I said. If you start from the center, you won't have that problem. But make sure you do know how to do your outside edges, because that really gives you a formation of the rose. And we have a beautiful rose. I love this color, eh? This color, you wouldn't think to make a rose with this color. Like I said, I would never have thought until somebody made one last year with it, and I loved it. It was so pretty. Okay, so I'm fluffing. Alright? So you can just keep going around and seeing which corners are not going to stay in. Mine are pretty good. Oh, mine's still, Jean, mine's still Christmas. It's a Christmas clock, and we just couldn't find it in us to put it away because we absolutely love it. So that's the only thing of Christmas that's staying out because we love that clock. All right, we're going to put some green leaves on because our rose is done. I hope your guys, anybody having problems, like anybody still stick with me? I think I did it pretty close, pretty slow. What's the matter, hon?
Dean wants to see the side of the board because she's had some problems with the side.
There's the side. I'm not too sure.
I'm not sure what she's wrong with.
Okay, that's the back. There we go, nice and neat. This is the side. So you can see.
Oh, I think she's saying sometimes you can see the side of the board. I think she's...
If you do your outside, petals like I just showed you, you won't see the outside of the board. You have to make sure that they're not, how do I say this, not too loose. So you want to make sure your corner is as close to the next zip tie as possible because that gives that fullness, that gives that rose shape, okay?
Can you point out the hanging zip tie again?
The hanging zip tie is right here. So that's how we're going to hang it up. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the green. I'll probably still poke around with this and find out any of the corners that may not want to stay in. If you want, if you're making these when you're constructing them, you can glue each corner as you go. If you want. Now, roses are not perfect either, so keep that in mind as well.
Someone's saying they can see the zip ties on your, not on yours, of when they do it.
Then they don't have enough mesh. Okay, so let's get our green leaves. I'm gonna fart around with this for forever. I'm gonna use these green leaves. Okay, so we got green leaves. These are 10 by 10 because we are going to put these on a little different than that petal. So what we're going to use is we're going to be using, now you can go around and put 8, I gave everybody 8 green pieces, and we're going to be using section 1 or circumference 1. We're going to be using these holes. Even though there's zip tie in them already, we're going to be using them, and I call them shared holes, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to, well, first I'll do the petal. Petal is quite easy. You got a 10 by 10 piece. Like I said earlier, the decomesh always has its natural curl, so it makes like a U. For this part, mesh all over, put that curl downwards. Okay, so it's like that. You're going to turn it diamond shaped again, and this time you're going to take your corner and you're going to scrunch from this corner to this corner between your finger and thumbs. Okay, so you're going to just drag it up from corner to corner, and this is what you got. Okay, I put it down on my table. I'm going to flip it upwards, and I like to make sure that each petal is pretty much the same size. Now, if you are obsessed with frays, you will see frays on the edges. These will show your edges, so if you want to use your bag sealer or your wood burner, as long as you're using your protective equipment, you may want to cut these 8 pieces, or how many pieces, or you may figure out a different petal. A lot of people are figuring out different petals, so you don't, I just squished it all. So now you're going to take zip tie, you're going to stick your zip tie in your one hole here. Okay, just like that. So it's in the hole. You're going to take your leaf, and I'm doing it upside down so you guys can see what I'm doing. So this is the front of my leaf. I don't want to see, we want that leaf to, when I turn this over, we want the petals of the leaves to face the door. So we want that kind of that curl down. So where you've scrunched it, I'll open this up. This is the back side. I'm going to put this right here. Where's my zip tie? Sorry. I'm going to put this leaf between the edge of the board. I got my zip tie in backwards. I think I'm getting tired. There we go. Okay, make sure you put your zip tie in properly. And you're going to put it, your green on the edge of the board. You're going to take the zip tie tail, and it's going to go in between the 2 petals. This is upside down. And you're going to zip it up. Now this head, you can bring it down so it pops in the hole to keep our back nice and neat. And as you can see, there's our leaf. Now you can go all the way around with your 8. I think I got this mesh at the tool shop, I think. I bought my mesh, so I'm going to constantly go around and glue some of these corners. like I said at the beginning, I bought mesh wherever I could find it because it was getting really scarce. So wherever I could find it, I bought it. So I bought from Trendy Tree, I bought from Craft Outlet, I bought from Tool Shop, I bought from Paper Mart. Wherever I could find some, I bought it. Okay, and then pop in the hole. Now, when I'm doing my leaves, I kind of like to, I want to keep them together, and you kind of have to train the mesh because it, like I said, it does its own thing. So when I'm making my wreath, I always have a bunch of clothespins hanging around. I'll clip these together so they'll stay. As I'm making the wreath, they'll kind of stay together. Now I'm going to flip this over because I normally don't do it upside down. I was just doing this so I could show you guys. So you could put your zip tie in. Okay. Put it down on your table. So there it is. This is exactly why I showed you guys how to do the outside first, because this is what I would have been trying to do right now, is show you guys to do the outside. Okay, take your piece of green. You're going to go from corner to corner, bring it up, and this one's really much shorter. I try to make sure that they're the same length approximately. Take, kind of bringing your, put your finger in between them, find your zip tie, just put it in the middle. Oh, of course I did my zip tie upside down. There. Now it'll be much easier for you guys. I'm trying to do this upside down and actually teach you. There are different ways that you can do the leaves, and you don't have to do leaves. You don't have to do 8 leaves. You can do just a few on each side.
Green is 10 by 10?
Huh?
Green is 10 by 10?
Yeah, I did the green 10 by 10. You can do 9 by 10 too if you're like running low on mesh. So I got, how many do I have here? 3. Wow, isn't this nice? This is one roll of mesh. That's it, one roll. Now, sometimes, I don't know, for those more advanced wreathers, you know that once you get more to the center of the roll of mesh, it really, it's not nice and, your mesh is nice, not nice and flat. It kind of really rolls up into a curl. I find once I put all my leaves on, I want them to be flat on the door so you can actually see them. So once I'm done my wreath, no matter what, this one is really bothering me, whether which one, what kind of wreath I'm doing, I go and once I'm done the wreath, I'll put it on the floor and I'll take a book, and I usually do this before I go to bed. I'll take a book and I'll go around with a few books and I'll put the books on top of the green mesh. So I'll go all the way around with anything heavy. Even my drink. Okay, anything heavy to keep those green leaves flat. And then in the morning, when you wake up, you'll take them off and they'll be nice and flat and look perfect. I like because the green really shows off the flower that you're doing. It's almost like a frame, right? And if they're all curled under each other and you don't really see the green, then why bother putting it on? So that's a little trick, is if once you're done, they will try and curl under each other, under on each other. Put something heavy around them. Go to bed, wake up in the morning, and you have trained them. I'm like the mesh whisperer. Are you tired, honey? Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. My nose won't stop running. Okay, so I'm going around with the 8. I might as well cut it, right? God, I have quite the mesh. Oh my gosh, look how cute. I forgot I have to put my little dragonfly on there. I got this little guy at Hobby Lobby. He was like 44 cents, 50% off. You can buy little butterflies. You can buy all kinds of stuff, even at the dollar store. This guy's wood. If I do put him like right outside, I'll definitely have to spray him. But these will be, because it's all plastic, these are going to be awesome for like gardens or a gate for your, you know, your fence gate. And they're nice and big. That's what I love about them. They're nice and big. If you're going to make something, make it big so you can actually make a statement. People can see it. And I'm almost done. Thank goodness. So like I said, you don't have to put 8 flowers or leaves. You can put 2 on one side, 2 on the other. You don't have to put any. Totally, totally up to you. I personally like the leaves. Like I said, it's almost like a frame. A hummingbird would look very pretty. Bee, a red rose with a little bee or something. That little tiny touch, even though, you know, you might have got it from the dollar store and everything. Customers will see that little extra touch, and of course just fall in love with, like, you know, that little face. And it just adds a little bit of color. Oh, last one. And these, like I said, will fit between 2 doors. Now, if you're shipping them, you can ship it. I think these usually turn out to be about 22 by 22. But when you are shipping them, if you put it in the box or attach it to your cardboard or however you do it, if you make sure when you put it in and you fold these up, when you box it, when the customer it may be folded up, but when the customer takes it out of the box, these green leaves and these outer petals will be perfect. So it may look a little squished in the box, but that's a good thing, because that will keep the leaves from curling under, and it'll keep these outer ones from flattening. And the board, the actual board is 15.5, and we actually did that on purpose. No, it's 15.5 inches, and we did that on purpose to make sure you could ship them in no bigger than a 24 by 24 box, because once you go past 24 by 24, then you're paying like a balloon rate for shipping.
So what's the total cost to make something like that?
The total cost? Well, if you bought the board, is $8, unless you got it on sale, because sometimes we have a sale. 1 roll of mesh. Well, it depends on how much your 21-inch roll of mesh, but the average is about $4 or $5, I think. I think for 21, or maybe 6. I'm not sure. Depends what you get on sale for. And then if you bought a green roll of mesh, you probably get 8. You get 40 pieces, so you'll get 5 flowers. If you use 8 pieces of green, you get 5 flowers. Oh, I have one more piece. You get 5 flowers out of 1 roll of green. And then a bag of zip ties. A bag of zip ties is a couple dollars. So all in all, you're looking no more than maybe $15. But if you buy everything on sale, you could even do them as cheap as, make one as cheap as like $10. We had a sale, what was it, 25% off? So you got the boards for like $6 or something. So, and you can get, you don't want to cheap out too much on the mesh, but you can if, you know, if you get something at Hobby Lobby. It just takes, I find the more cheaper the mesh, the more work it takes, because you have to double mesh and, you know. Anyways, I gotta fix this center. You'll probably fool around with it for 10-15 minutes, like I said. And the top of your wreath is your hanging hole. Your hanging, where are they? Where is it? There it is. So there's our back. Our back is nice and clean still.
Are you all done?
I am done. Oh, I'm gonna make sure. I'm gonna put my little dragonfly on there. I'm gonna glue my dragonfly onto my rose. Maybe I'll put him right there, I guess. I don't know. He looks good there. Maybe I should have put it out there, but he's on there now. Okay. Do we have it up? This is our rose. 1 roll of 21-inch, 8 pieces of green, 40, well, I use so basically 48 zip ties. I would say 50 to be safe, and an elastic band. Pretty cool, huh? So that's it. This is the Unique in the Creek rose. This is the back. That's all we got. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and I hope you learned something, or even just joined us for the first time and you've never heard of Unique in the Creek. Give us a try. Don't be scared. Like I said, the nice thing with our boards as well is if you need to redo it again, which I've done many times, guys. All you have to do is take your snippers and cut off all your zip ties and restart. You can still reuse the mesh and just restart again with another pack of zip ties. So don't worry about screwing up or failing or messing it up, or, you know, and you know what? Enjoy it and don't overthink it. If you overthink it, it takes the fun out of all of it, and when you overthink it, you kind of screw it up too, because you're really, you know, concentrating too much on it being perfect. A rose is not perfect. A flower is not perfect. We are not perfect. And this craft, it's a craft. Crafts are not perfect, right? Anyways, thank you very, very much for joining me. And yes, all the supplies for the zinnia are posted on the event. So if you click on events on our Facebook page, all the flowers that I'm doing for the rest of the week are located on the events. I haven't posted all the supply lists. I've been really, really busy, but I will try and do that first thing tomorrow. But the zinnia tutorial, or the zinnia supply list, is already posted. And I think Wednesday's the daffodil, or I can't remember, but it's all listed there for you guys. Okay, so enjoy and have a great evening, and thanks all for joining me. Bye, guys.